Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at tonight's 7-game MLB slate, and you and I just wrapped up the pitcher pod a little while ago. Pretty ugly pitching night, but that means you can put some guys in some good offensive spots, and just about every team kind of offers up a little bit of something, which is nice.
Yeah, it kind of makes all these lineups pretty much in play. Obviously there's some stronger ones than others, but a lot of options tonight for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And jumping right into the first one here, 7:05 Yankees and Orioles. This is one of our favorites, over under of 9. CC Sabathia, Tyler Wilson. Obviously, what stands out if you just barely look at the slate, it's let's take some Baltimore bats against CC tonight.
Yeah, I think we're looking at the right-handers, Machado, Adam Jones, Trumbo. I mean, obviously Trumbo isn't going to do what he did last night unless it's extreme circumstances. But yeah, I think pretty much this whole lineup is in play tonight. And I mean, a 4-person stack from this team is definitely in play.
Definitely. I mean, CC Sabathia since 2014, 375 WOBA allowed to right-handers, 1.64 home runs per 9. Camden Yards, incredibly favorable for hitters. So, yeah, all those guys you mentioned. One cheap catcher option I like is Matt Wieters there. Hits better from the right side. If he's in the lineup, he's a guy who I'll definitely be taking a look at tonight. And then, yeah, I mean, you touched on everyone. Machado, Jones, Trumbo, all guys to look at.
And I mean, even some of the cheaper guys in that lineup, obviously you don't normally want to go that deep, but if you're looking for cheap guys in the back there, I mean, Schwoop and Flaherty, I mean, crazier things have happened. And then you're looking at the front of that lineup right in front of them. So,
yeah, definitely. And on the Yankees side, obviously there's a couple guys. They're a little bit more expensive for my taste, and that's Ellsbury and Gardner. Up top at the lineup, obviously Wilson, kind of your average right-hander, doesn't go too deep into games. And I think that could be something that plays out as far as the Yankees guys go, is they might see 2 at-bats against this starter and then face a really good bullpen with some really good left-handers. And that might kind of knock them down a bit tonight.
Right. So kind of knock down their ceiling a little bit there, considering the amount of at-bats they'll probably see against Wilson. But yeah, I mean, there is considerable upside, at least early on in this game for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think McCann's another one. He might be your popular option tonight behind the plate, but he is a little more expensive. You can take a discount with some other plays, but McCann's another name who's certainly in play in Camden Yards. So next game here, you got Rangers and Blue Jays, Colby Lewis, Aaron Sanchez. You and I were talking once again on the pitcher pod. You put your reference to blackjack. You know, you keep losing hands, but eventually you're going to win one with this Blue Jays stack.
Yeah.
And once again, they're in another good spot tonight against Lewis, who doesn't miss bats. You're just kind of average, middle of the road right-hander, and it's in the Rogers Center, so it's bound to happen.
Well, the interesting thing here is I'm obviously going back to it again just to see it through, but are people going to stop using them? Or, I mean, they're super chalky again tonight with Vegas and everything pointing in their direction, but are people just going to be fed up with it and stop using them altogether until they see something? Or are people just going to keep going back to the well?
I mean, I think you're going to get a little bit of both. I think you are going to see a depreciated ownership on tonight's slate. I mean, it's still Colby Lewis. I mean, he has a lot of 330 WOBA to right-hander since 2014, and you know, the home runs per 9 has been 1.49 there. So, I mean, the everything points to them doing exactly what they should be doing tonight, but it's just we've had that happen so far this season. It just hasn't been the case. And I think because the Baltimore bats have been solid, because the Red Sox bats are intriguing tonight against a lefty in U.S. Cellular, you might see a little bit lower ownership. But overall, I still think they have to be still the chalky plays tonight. I mean,
yeah.
How often is this Blue Jays team going to really fail to take out a mediocre pitcher at home?
Yeah, and I think pretty much everyone in that lineup is in play. I mean, especially you look at the top 4, and then Tulowitzki's been struggling quite a bit, but I mean, I'm even looking at him tonight. Russell Martin at catcher. I mean, I'm still going right back to him. So for better or worse, let's see through.
And I think my favorite play is Michael Saunders from this game, just because Lewis. I mean, Saunders has been solid. But Lewis, I mean, he struggles more so with lefties. I mean, he struggles with both sides of the plate. But since 2014, 351 WOBA allowed. Saunders has been a little bit more consistent than some of these other bats. But I mean, you can get them fairly cheap. I think with Saunders and Tulo and Encarnacion, they're not their usual price tags.
Right.
So, and we talked about also, on the pitcher pod, Sanchez's struggles with left-handed bats at times, and that puts the Rangers in play tonight. And I think once again, as a GPP team, there's only one guy I'm looking at in cash. That's because he's so cheap, and that's Nomar Mazara.
Yeah, I kind of go back and forth with this Rangers lineup. I don't mind Beltre at his price tonight. I mean, I don't mind Fielder either. I think they're an interesting way to build a lineup, especially if you're not touching Toronto or one of the higher end stacks. So I think that's an interesting place to get exposure. But obviously, Sanchez has the chance to sort of shut them down as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas isn't predicting a ton of Texas runs tonight, but obviously we've seen crazier things happen. And, the Rogers Center, favorable for these bats, especially power-wise.
And they're cheap.
Yeah, looking at those price tags, I mean, it's just you can build a 1 through 5 stack there and pair him up with Jose Fernandez and a guy like Drew Smiley or something with maybe a punt option. So it is possible there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, really, Mazara, he's a guy who I'm considering in all formats just because of that price tag. You might need someone that low. Rougned Odor, 3,600. That's a pretty cheap price tag.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I mean, all these teams they bring so much pop, and Sanchez has struggled against lefties, and that's where our concern lied. On the pitcher pod.
Definitely.
So, next game here we have Diamondbacks and Marlins. Just an over under of 7. Miami big favorites. Jose Fernandez, Ruby De La Rosa, and because Fernandez is my top guy, there's no way I'm playing any Arizona bats tonight.
I just think in terms of process, you don't want to play them, especially in cash. I mean, you're probably going to be looking hard at Fernandez in all your lineups tonight anyway. So based on that, I just don't think you can really go at them. I like Stanton as a standalone play, sort of as a higher end option, but I'm not necessarily in on this whole Marlins lineup tonight. So I think that's kind of how I'm looking at that too.
I think, yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with you there. I mean, obviously De La Rosa's come off 2 really strong starts, and looking at the larger sample size, I mean, lefties he's been absolutely hammered by over the last, I mean, pretty much his entire career. 385 WOBA allowed, 1.50 runs per 9. Like a guy like Dietrich comes into my mind as being a solid cash game option just because he's another cheap price tag guy who allows you to get in those bats, and I think he's still in a good spot. Same with Christian Yelich. And if you wanted to look at a GPP, play Justin Bour.
I like the Dietrich call. That's a good call. I like him there.
Yeah, but I mean, outside of that, I'm not expecting a ton of runs. But Vegas is looking at 4.4 there, so it's not entirely bad.
Right.
Next game here, we got Dodgers and Rays. Once again, 2 lefties on the hill. Alex Wood, Drew Smiley. 7.5 over under. Rays big time favorites. You and I are both jumping on some of these Rays bats, looking to target against Wood, who's been very mediocre in his career, especially outside of Atlanta, where he has really had only some success there.
Yeah, I'm liking Geyer at his price, Pierce, Longoria. I like those 3 again. I think that's a reasonable stack that can basically save you money too. So I definitely like that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you there. Longoria is kind of my favorite cash game third baseman tonight. Just kind of the spin down from Donaldson. As you mentioned, Geyer, a cheap outfielder piece. Same with Pierce. So this is a cheap stack as well. And Logan Forsythe, expensive, but this guy did hammer left-handed pitching last season.
Right.
So overall, I think that's a good call. And I'm not really looking to pick on Smiley, but it was kind of the same with the names that we mentioned yesterday that could do some damage. That's really Kike Hernandez and Puig.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Puig still only 3.6. So on DraftKings, that's got to be intriguing.
Yeah, and there's one other name, Klay Thompson's brother, Trace Thompson.
And Trace Adkins' cousin, yeah.
I mean, you can look at him. I mean, he's hammered southpaws. Obviously, coming off a home run last night,
Right.
Might be chasing points there. But overall, I mean, it is a matchup where he can exploit. I don't mind him against left-handers, but definitely a GPP only play.
Yeah, I like that.
So next one here, 8 o'clock game, Red Sox and White Sox. Clay Buchholz versus Carlos Rodon. 8.5 over under, friendly park here. I'm kind of looking on offense for both sides, although it is a cooler weather game, so that is something to kind of consider. That could knock down some of the bats just a little bit.
Yeah, again, other than Toronto, I'm starting to make my move with the hitters in this game. I like pretty much everyone on the Red Sox side. I mean, whether it's Bogarts or Pedroia or Betts, I mean, I think those are sneaky plays that are more expensive, but I think they're a nice way to potentially get in on this if Rodon goes down, you know.
Definitely. I mean, Rodon 349 WOBA allowed to right-handers, 1.07 home runs per 9. Yeah, I mean, all the names you mentioned there on that side there, Betts, Pedroia, Bogarts, Hanley. Chris Young is a really cheap outfielder, GPP potential, just because we haven't seen it quite yet pay off this move, but this is a guy who did hit lefties really well last season.
Right.
So on the White Sox side, you kind of see any names interesting you? I mean, they all come at a fairly cheap price tag right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like Rollins again tonight. Frazier. I mean, Jose Abreu, solid option for his price. Again, I think you can look at Buchholz as a tournament pitcher, but certainly hasn't pitched well this year, and there's blowout for him as well. So I think this is a nice high upside option for the White Sox as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one name that really catches my eye on DK is Melky Cabrera. That's just 3K. I mean, hitting fifth behind those bats. I mean, he's going to be in some RBI opportunities. Buchholz hasn't been strong against lefties, 331 WOBA allowed. So that's a really cheap cash game option, especially if you're paying up a price, at pitching. I think he fits into cash game lineups pretty well.
Definitely.
So next game here, we have the Twins and Astros, Phil Hughes, Mike Fiers. Over under of 8. You and I are kind of treating this pitcher one as a GPP style on both sides, leaning more towards Fiers. But Phil Hughes, incredibly home run prone, does have reverse splits. 336 WOBA allowed to right-handers, a 1.28 home runs per 9. Friendly ballpark. This Houston team, interesting GPP stack, just because there is a lot of pop, but they have been bad. 27% strikeout rate against right-handers, but there is plenty of potential for a big-time run performance.
I actually really like them. Obviously, Vegas is in favor of them, and they're big favorites. But yeah, Altuve, Springer, even if you just do those two, I think that's a nice start to a lineup. You might even be able to fit that in if you go with the top two, Smiley and Fernandez. So I think that's an intriguing mini stack there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because there are some cheap 3K guys to look at tonight. And a guy like Correa catches my eye. Rasmus is fairly cheap. That 4, 5, and 6 could be something because they're both under 4, or they're all three under 4K with Tyler White and Evan Gattis. All with tremendous power. I think that could be something too if Hughes isn't on his game and he kind of looks like his home run prone self.
Right, and I'm staying away from Minnesota tonight. I don't know how we haven't talked about that, but I think I'm staying away. And I think in terms of Fiers, I'm kind of going with him as one of my tournament guys. So I think I'm staying away from Minnesota tonight.
Yeah, the only thing to note with Fiers, I mean, I think the only one play I might look at is just because if I need to punt somewhere, it's Danny Santana still up top. I mean, 2,300. He might have actually lost his shortstop eligibility. If that's the case, then never mind. I'm not sure. But if he did, then never mind. But yeah, that's the only way I'd punt with him. I don't love shortstop tonight, so I can just pay down there and use that salary elsewhere.
But 2,300, I mean, at any position is a nice way to boost up the rest of your spots. So even at outfield, I mean, obviously that's not optimal, but yeah, I mean, I think he's in play either way.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly cheap enough. He's not going to have to do a whole lot to pay off that price tag. And I mean, Fiers isn't the strongest arm. He's not shabby either. But overall, I think Santana's a decent play. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you. No other Twins really catch my eye. Bungo Park is maybe an only option as far as a deep GPP pick, just because he has plenty of power.
All right.
Is that fair? Is that fair? Do you agree?
You know what? If you want to, you got to put him in every lineup now. Just plug him in. That's your guy.
I can't do that. 8:15 Phillies and Cardinals. Adam Morgan, Mike Leake. Cardinals big favorites here, 7.5 over under, and I think there actually could be some runs here in this game. I think this might be actually, the more I'm looking into it, this could be a pretty sneaky game for offense.
Yeah, I like Randall Gierchuk for the Cardinals. He popped up in the optimizer as an interesting play, and I like his price. But I think I don't know who's to trust on this Phillies offense against Mr. Leake there.
I like Odubel Herrera if he's leading off, because I mean, you look at lefties; they've hit Leake pretty well. 331 WOBA allowed 1.13, and obviously he's been awful this season. He kind of catches my eye. Freddie Galvis, if you want some cheap options. I still think Maikel Franco is way too cheap. So I think really the first three hitters, obviously you can look at Howard as a deep GPP play. But overall, I think top four, I don't mind those guys in tournaments tonight.
Okay, I think that's fair. And I mean, 7 games, so hey, it's a YOLO play, but 1 homer with 2 guys on, and you're looking pretty good. And in terms of this Cardinals side, do you see anybody else other than Gierchuk?
I like him. I like Holiday as well as a cheap outfielder. Piscotty in a decent spot. I think one guy that I also like is Gorko, Jake Gorko there, 3,500. He's a possible cheap shortstop option. If Diaz was in a better spot, I might look at him because he's been absolutely unreal hitting for power. Obviously getting Adam Morgan, who is coming off a good start, but overall last season was awful against right-handed bats. So I think overall it is something to consider tonight.
Definitely.
So, I think that could be a sneaky GPP one. So that's going to wrap things up here with the slate breakdown. Check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.